The Mughals are one of the most magnificent and known empires when it comes to Indian medieval history. They are known for their imperial grandeur, powerful monarchs, unique architecture, and small but powerful nobility.
While these things lie on the forefront of the mainstream history that we study, there are many sections of society whose existence has been hidden and shielded for over centuries. They continue to remain on the margins.
This documentary is about the realities that existed behind the beautiful veils of Mughal women. It tries to uncover the secrets behind the large walls of the Mughal harem and conclude how much of it is actually the truth. Characteristic to patriarchy is the notion of women belonging to the household and their confinement within the domestic sphere. This is best reflected through the harem.
The word harem means a forbidden place or a sanctum. In the medieval times, it comes to represent a physical space where the women of a particular household resided. The imperial harem has roots that spread beyond the boundaries of the Mughal Empire.
At the empire's greatest extent in the late 17th century, Mughals controlled much of the Indian subcontinent, extending from Bengal in the east to Sindh in the west, from Kashmir in the north to the Kaveri basin in the south. It was culturally influenced from the Ottoman and the Safavid empires in the west. The Ottoman Empire inspires the whole concept of the imperial harem being a secluded and distinct structure that was guarded by the eunuchs and forbidden to all men except the emperor. Even the structure of the Mughal harem has been influenced by the harem of the Ottoman Sultan. One reason for this cultural influence could have been the political stability instilled by the Mughal Emperor Akbar and his contemporary Sultan Suleiman of the Ottoman Empire. The harem was far from being a homogeneous institution. It consisted of women of different regions, religions, and most importantly of different titles. At the top of the social hierarchy were the Begums, who came from royal and aristocratic families. They were married after receiving huge amounts of cash and valuables as dower, receiving higher status and attention from the husband.
Next were the legal wives or the agas, who were not so noble by birth. Then were the concubines or the agachas. They formed a distinct type of bondage under the emperor. The lowest in the hierarchy were the slaves, who could be bought, sold, and gifted.
The splendid Red Fort of Delhi, built by the Emperor Shah Jahan in 1648, also encompasses the imperial harem. Located at the southwest end of the fort, the Rang Mahal served as the residence of imperial women for over centuries. The ceiling of the eastern and western end of the mahal is richly decorated with glass and marble, giving it the name Shish Mahal. Not surprisingly, it displays the traditional features of Indo-Islamic architecture, including the arcs and the jharokas. Considering the beauty and comparatively spacious chambers, it is possible that it was the residence of the Begums and the legal wives of the emperor. In contrast is the center of the mahal, comparatively plain and undecorated, perhaps a place where the concubines and slaves lived. Another famous feature is the Nehre-Bisht, or the center of the paradise, a canal that runs right in the middle of the Rang Mahal. It draws water from the Yamuna river via the northeast tower of the fort. Some historians say that this canal was used to store water that went into the basement to keep it cool. This served as a place where the women went in the hot summers in order to cool down. Other historians extrapolate that it was used to draw water for the fountain that decorated the gardens in front of the mahal. The same Nehar extends to the Diwane Khas and then to these pavilion structures, perhaps a place for public performances, announcements, or meeting with the emperor.
The Moti Masjid is the masjid used exclusively by the emperor and the women of the harem. This masjid is representative of the social isolation to which the women were often subjected. Another example of the imperial harem comes from the Agra fort, popularly known as the Angori Bagh. It is situated at the southern end of the fort. First built by the Emperor Akbar in red sandstone, it was later rebuilt by Shah Jahan using a symbolic white marble. The structure is divided into compartments in an intricate geometrical pattern. According to the Ain-e-Akbari,
Each wife of the emperor got a personal separate apartment. Looking at the structure, however, this assertion can be clearly seen as an exaggeration.
As the name suggests, this garden was known for harvesting choicest of grapes and flowers throughout the year. It was designed to be pleasant retreat or the paradise garden for the royal ladies and ensured their complete privacy.
The fact that it is situated right next to the personal palace of the emperor, the Khas Mahal, is suggestive of the close proximity between the emperor and the imperial harem.
The imperial bathhouses or the hammams are situated right next to it. This once again suggests the social isolation to which the women of the harem were subjected.
While most of the women remained within the boundaries of the household, this conclusion is not without its exception.
Noor Jahan, Emperor Jahangir's Begum, controlled significant financial resources. She supposedly had considerable political influence within the court.
Shah Jahan's daughter Jahanara and Roshnara enjoyed the annual income often equal to that of high imperial mansabdars. They had control over trade and resources, which enabled them to commission buildings and gardens.
The financial independence enjoyed by Jahanara and Roshnara could have been the reason behind their separate quarters in the Agra fort. Both of their quarters are situated close to the Khas Mahal that was resided by the emperor. This suggests that while these women were financially independent, they were also very close to the emperor.
While it's true that there existed a social hierarchy in the harem, the places of women in this hierarchy was not fixed. One common way to rise in the social hierarchy was through childbirth. A famous example of this comes from Akbar's harem.
Harkabai was another one of Akbar's legal wives. She rose in the social hierarchy by gaining the title of Mariam-uz-Zamani after she gave birth to Prince Salim.
Her importance in the royal harem can be established by analyzing the structures at the Fatehpur Sikri. What is commonly known as the Jodhabai's palace is inspired from Rajput architecture, displaying beautiful jharokas and is made up of red sandstone.
It includes a Hindu temple, which was supposedly for the personal use of Mariam-uz-Zamani. The imperial harem also has a tulsi plant right at the center. This plant symbolizes Hindu rituals and was no doubt used by the Hindu princess to offer her prayers.
Other than providing us with a glimpse inside the lives of the imperial women, the Fatehpur Sikri is also representative of the cultural and religious tolerance exercised by the Mughal emperors. It's uncontested that chronicles, official accounts, and regional records shape the history that we study today. However, there is another side to history that helps us understand it through the meanings attached to it by ordinary people. Oral testimonies gives us an insight into the popular myths and conceptions. Memories and experiences shape the reality of an event. Be it the movies on Jodha and Akbar or the Anarkali fable, these form an important part of history that we are trying to study. To encompass this dimension within our study, we asked the tour guide at the Agra Fort a few questions.
हरम में तमाम लेडीज़ रहती थी, जैसे कि आप फूड में अकबर की ऑफिशियल क्वीन, जिनमें उनके अदर्स अनऑफिशियल क्वीन, अदरवाइज जैसे किंग्स होते हैं उनकी जो विनन क्वीन होती थी वो भी होती थी, और सर्वेंट्स भी हरम के अंदर में ही आते थे। और जैसे कि राजा किसी फाइट को अगर रूल करने जाते थे वो विन हो जाते थे, उनकी जो इलीगल क्वीन ऑफिशियल क्वीन उनको विन करके लाते थे, वो हरम में आते थे। के टाइम में हरम चला ही नहीं था। अकबर के टाइम का जो हरम चला था वो कट्टर शासक के अकॉर्डिंग चला, क्योंकि अकबर और जोधा इनके मैरिज से पहले अकबर भी एक औरंगजेब टाइप के रूलर थे, जो कि अकबर और औरंगजेब की थिंकिंग सेम थी। बट आफ्टर 1569 के अंदर और दिन लाई के अकॉर्डिंग सारी लेडीज़ एक ही रूम में रह सकती थी, लेकिन उनके पर्सनल रूम में हरम की लेडीज़ नहीं जा सकती थी। और रही बात जहांगीर की, जहांगीर भी एक अय्याश राजा थे। जैसे कि अकबर ने, जैसे उनके बेटे सलीम थे और सलीम को अनारकली से लव हुआ था, वो एक हरम लेडी थी, वो उनकी बेटी जैसे कि हरम की दासी थी, वो दासी से लव हुआ तो अकबर बात के खिलाफ थे, तो अकबर ने उनसे मैरिज नहीं की। लेकिन उसी अकॉर्डिंग अकबर के जहांगीर ने, इन दोनों ने फाइट भी हुआ काफ़ी, लेकिन उसके बाद उनकी जो जैसे कहते हैं ना बाउंड्री वॉल के अंदर में अनारकली को छमवा दी गया, वो फतेहपुर सीकरी टू लाहौर में एक कैरन के थ्रू निकाल दी गई। और रही बात शाहजहां की, जैसे शाहजहां की 379 इलीगल प्रिंसेस थी और प्लस 8 क्वीन थी ऑफिशियल। ऑल मुगल की सबसे खास बात थी, क्योंकि जितने भी राजा वो अगर फाइट करते थे, अगर वो जीतते थे तो सबकी वाइफ को अपने पास ले आते थे। अगर कोई नहीं आती थी तो ज़बरदस्ती लाकर उसको फोर्ट में कुछ दिनों तक भूखा प्यासा रखकर उनको सज़ा दे दिया करते। अगर वो इस बात को एग्री कर लेते कि फोर्ट में रहने के लिए, तो उनको नॉर्मल तरीके से रूम में रखा जाता था, नहीं तो उनको दैद कर दिया था। यूनक्स उनके लिए खास एक तो सेफ्टी के लिए यूज़ करते थे। यूनक्स सबसे खास वुमेन सेफ्टी के लिए वर्क करते थे। जैसे कि वुमेन उनका सबसे खास वर्क है, जितनी भी लेडीज़ होती थी वो हमेशा लेडीज़ के साथ 24 आवर सिक्योरिटी गार्ड का वर्क करते थे। अब जैसे कि क्वीन अकबर, जैसे कि अकबर की वाइफ जोधा थी, तो जोधा खुद एक पावरफुल क्वीन थी, तो उनके लिए ट्रांसजेंडर अभी यूज़ ही नहीं किए गए, लेकिन अदर क्वींस के लिए यूज़ किए। ट्रांसजेंडर अकबर के टाइम में 3000 ट्रांसजेंडर थे, जिनमें अकबर ने अपनी वाइफ रुकैया बेगम, उनके लिए समथिंग 100 यूनक्स 24 आवर सेफ्टी के लिए रखे। लेकिन शिफ्ट के अकॉर्डिंग चेंज भी होते थे। हाफ एन आवर जैसे कि होता था तो शिफ्ट चेंज करते रहते थे। लेकिन जो नाइट वाली शिफ्ट होती थी उसमें 2000 ट्रांसजेंडर उनकी पर डे सेफ्टी करते थे नाइट में। रूम के बाहर 100 यूनिट्स बाहर होते थे, 100 इनसाइड बाउंड्री के, यानी कि रूम को कवर करते, ऑल साइड से कवर करते थे, क्योंकि इजीली अगर कोई अटैक भी होता तो उस दौरान यूनिट से वो सेफ्टी करते थे।
One thing that this interview highlighted was that popular perceptions are heavily shaped by myths, media portrayal of history in the form of movies and daily soaps, as well as the oral transfer of stories. These are sometimes at odds with reality.